United Health Group, I mean, they're an absolute titan in American healthcare. But behind the curtain, this giant got caught in this perfect storm of government pressure and its own immense power, and it sent its stock into a total freefall. We're going to break down exactly how it all went down.
So let's start with the number at the very heart of this story, minus 58%. Just think about that. From its recent high, United Health stock just plummeted. For a company of this scale, a drop like this, it's not just a bad week, it's a full-blown seismic event that sent shockwaves through the entire industry.
So what on earth happened? Was there some sudden catastrophic scandal? A huge business failure we all missed? Well, the real story is way more complicated and honestly, way more interesting. To get what's going on, you have to look under the hood of the company itself and at the massive forces that are closing in on it.
Okay, so to really understand why United Health collapsed so spectacularly, you first have to get its basic structure. And here's the thing. It isn't just one business. It's really a company with two very distinct faces. And that dual nature, well, it's the key to both its incredible success and its current massive vulnerability. So on one side, you have United Healthcare. You probably know them. They're the massive insurance company, right? They collect premiums from millions of people. But then on the other side, you have this thing called Optum. It's this huge, sprawling service provider that pretty much does everything else, managing hospitals, pharmacies, you name it. The two halves are built to feed into each other. And just look at how perfectly balanced this whole machine is. For 2024, the operating profit is split almost right down the middle, 51% from Optum, 49% from United Healthcare. It's like having two equal engines powering this massive corporation. And that means both sides are absolutely critical to its survival. Now, to get Optum's real power, you have to understand this one crucial term, PBM. It stands for Pharmacy Benefit Manager. Think of a PBM as the ultimate middleman. It's the part of Optum that sits right in between the insurance companies, the pharmacies, and the drug makers, and it negotiates all the drug prices. They decide which drugs get on the preferred list, and for doing that, they get a big piece of the action through rebates. This is central to the entire story. And here is how it all connects into this incredibly powerful self-reinforcing loop. So you pay your premium to United Healthcare, then you get sick, and they guide you to a hospital that, surprise, is managed by Optum. The doctor there prescribes a drug, which you go fill at an Optum-networked pharmacy. And the price of that drug? Well, it was already negotiated by Optum's PBM, which also pocketed a nice rebate. You see? They control the entire chain from top to bottom. But when you build a loop that powerful, that profitable, well, it tends to attract some very powerful enemies. In this case, the main opponent is the US government itself, which is staring down its own financial catastrophe. And it has forced them to declare an all-out war on healthcare costs. Let this number sink in. $2.5 trillion. That's the projected deficit for the US Social Security system in 2024 alone. The government is bleeding money, and the number one driver of that is healthcare spending. So naturally, they're desperate to cut costs, and they are looking for some very big targets. You know, this isn't a new problem. It's a demographic time bomb that's been ticking for decades. You had policy decisions back in the 80s to expand Medicare, then drug benefits were added in the 2000s. You combine that with a population that is just getting older and older, and you've put government spending on a totally unsustainable path. Every single year, more people need more healthcare, and the costs are just exploding. And here, this is exactly where the government is aiming its fire. For the exact same drug, Americans pay, on average, over 5 times more than people in other developed countries. When you see a price gap that massive, it makes the middlemen, the PBMs, a very, very obvious target for reform. And this threat, it's not theoretical anymore. The government has put the entire industry on notice. I mean, this directive to the major drug companies was a clear shot across the bow. It directly challenged the whole high-price, high-rebate model that fuels those PBM profits. The market saw this and, well, it panicked. So this intense pressure from the government, it creates this huge cloud of uncertainty for United Health. And when you boil it all down, it really leads to 3 possible futures for the company. Okay, scenario 1, let's call it the offset. In this future, the government gets what it wants and forces drug prices down. Now, that hurts Optum's PBM profits for sure. But, and this is a huge but, the insurance side, United Healthcare, suddenly saves a fortune because it's paying way less for those same drugs. So one side's loss could basically be canceled out by the other side's gain. All right, on to scenario 2, the price shift. Here, Optum just gets clever. If their PBM profits get squeezed by lower drug prices, they can use their immense power to just jack up fees somewhere else, like in their hospital management services. They're just shifting the profit from their right pocket to their left pocket. And then there's the nightmare scenario. Number 3, the squeeze. This is where regulators come at them from all sides at once. They force down drug prices, and they put a cap on Optum's other service fees, and then they force the insurance side to lower its premiums. The result? Profits get completely squeezed from every single angle. It's the worst possible outcome. So, with these 3 futures on the table, one is basically a wash, one is manageable, and one is an absolute disaster. We have to ask the big question. Was the market's reaction, that crazy 58% crash, a justified panic in the face of the worst-case scenario? Or was it a massive overreaction? What's really telling is when you look at its competitors. The whole sector got hit, yeah, but UnitedHealth got punished the most, a 58% drop compared to its peers. And its valuation, its PE ratio, is now way down at just 10, far below CVS and Cigna. The market is basically screaming that UNH is uniquely damaged goods.
Now, another thing that caused a lot of panic was this long-running investigation from the Department of Justice. But that recently wrapped up, and the potential fine? About $1.6 billion. Now, that sounds like a lot, but for a company this size, it's just a fraction of a single year's profit. It is hardly a reason to wipe out more than half the company's value.
But for my money, this might be the most telling detail of all, the trading volume. During the worst of the crash, the volume just exploded. That is a classic sign of what they call capitulation, where all the smaller investors panic and just sell, sell, sell. So the real question is, who's on the other side of that trade? Often, it's the big institutions who think they're getting a bargain. Which leaves us with the final, multi-billion-dollar question. Is UnitedHealth a wounded giant, a company that's been unfairly punished by the market and is now just deeply undervalued? Or is it a classic value trap, a company whose brilliant business model is now caught squarely in the crosshairs of unstoppable political and demographic forces? The market definitely panicked, but some of the biggest investors in the world are now betting that that panic is an opportunity. Only time is going to tell who's right.